Hi, my name is Leonard Jemison. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you on a Tuesday afternoon that's going to be very busy. Coming up, I'm heading to Samford University for Alabama against Samford in baseball on this Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. But we're glad you're with us to start our day of programming here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network as we wrapped up a busy weekend in Tuscaloosa, mostly with Alabama athletics. Now a huge weekend coming up for the Crimson Tide as well. We start our show as we always do, thanks to our friends at RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's coming up on the show this afternoon. We'll start with the conversation with Charlie Potter, who covers the Crimson Tide for On3 Sports, really getting his thoughts on football and men's basketball, especially some things away from the court, away from the field for both of those sports. So good conversation with Charlie Potter. First time we caught up with him in quite a while. Then we'll take a look at our booth cam highlights. And I didn't put a specific sport in the title here. I said CTSN booth cam highlights because we had the booth cam up and running for baseball, for softball, men's and women's basketball. Ethan Carabin, our video producer, did a fine job putting all of that together for you over this past weekend with the live streams. We'll take a look back at some of the best moments from the weekend with our booth cam highlights from all sports. And then last night, our week of programming started across the network with Hey Coach and the Nate Oats Show presented by Alpha Insurance. You'll hear back some thoughts from Alabama men's basketball head coach Nate Oats as he visited with Chris Stewart at Baumhauer's for our Hey Coach replay. Sticking with men's basketball, a great win on Saturday against South Carolina. 89-75 was the final score. Another impressive performance by Latrell Wrightsell Jr., LeBaron Finalon helping Alabama to that win. And then how about that dunk later in the ballgame by Jaleel Bethea? Now for the Crimson Tide, they're back in the top 25 poll in the AP, coming in at number 25 after being out of the rankings for 2 weeks. So some good momentum for Alabama as the Crimson Tide will try and keep it rolling against a very good Arkansas team on Wednesday night. Tip-off from Coleman Coliseum is set for 6 p.m. Our coverage on the network for that game will begin at 5 o'clock for Alabama against Arkansas. For the Alabama women's basketball team, nothing but top 25 matchups really recently for Alabama, and the Crimson Tide against 10th-ranked Oklahoma fell in a narrow contest, 79-71. It was a good comeback bid by Alabama in the second half, carried a 2-point lead into the fourth quarter, but unfortunately the Sooners got the win in Tuscaloosa, just the second home loss that Alabama's had this year. Where things stand now, Alabama 20-6, 6-6 in the SEC. Right now either tied for 7th or in 8th place in the league standings, and we only have 4 games left to go, including just 2 home games, including what's coming up on Thursday night when Alabama hosts number 3 South Carolina. Crimson Tide fell to the Gamecocks on New Year's Day in Columbia, so this will be the second meeting between Christy Curry and Dawn Staley's team this year. Tip off at 7:30. Our coverage will start at 7:15 across the network, and we will have a basketball booth cam presented by NASCAR for Alabama and South Carolina. On the diamond, a good weekend for the Crimson Tide softball and baseball teams getting to have their home openers or just start the season in general in baseball's case. But for softball, first time we got to see team number 30 at home this season. Dominant 4-0 run at the Bama Bash. Their final game on Sunday was canceled due to the weather, but Patrick Murphy and the Crimson Tide certainly look to be off to a great start this season. They'll try and keep it going coming up this weekend, going to Florida State for a weekend tournament, games against Elon, Dartmouth, and of course the Florida State Seminoles coming up for Alabama softball. Meanwhile, for baseball, tough to lose on opening day for Alabama. First opening day loss in quite a while for the Crimson Tide. But right after that on Saturday, swept a doubleheader against Washington State. Lost game 1, again 8-4 on opening day, but then the 2 games combined in the doubleheader, Alabama outscored Wazoo 19-2. So everything kind of got back to normal for Crimson Tide baseball on Saturday. Crimson Tide this week will have 2 midweek games starting, as I mentioned before, later this afternoon against the Samford Bulldogs in Birmingham, and then tomorrow a 4 p.m. first pitch against Alabama State before the Crimson Tide will be at home coming up this weekend hosting Rhode Island. Other notes around Crimson Tide athletics. Once again, gymnastics seeing the scores climb at this time of the year did really well against eighth-ranked Arkansas this past week. Once again, Azarea Ra Akbar, a fine performance for the Crimson Tide as a freshman. So Alabama got the win against Arkansas gymnastics. Now they'll try and keep it going this Friday night in state at Auburn. Also, news from the Crimson Tide football coaching staff. Richard Owens has been officially named as the new tight ends coach for Alabama as the Crimson Tide continue to refine the coaching staff with a few off-season roster moves in terms of the coaching staff for Kalen DeBoer. But Richard Owens comes in as a highly respected tight ends coach. And then swimming and diving, competing all week in Knoxville, Tennessee at the SEC Swimming and Diving Championships. More information on that available on RolledTide.com. Well, now we turn our attention to football and men's basketball to start the show with a one-on-one conversation with Charlie Potter, one of the most respected beat writers covering Alabama athletics over the last few years, and now he has his work available on on3.com. He joins us to talk about some of the off-the-field storylines for Alabama football and men's basketball as we get closer to the end of basketball season and keep an eye on everything happening in a very busy football offseason. Here's Charlie Potter. How's everything going for you as we continue to see the Crimson Tide and really interesting time of the year?
It's going good. It's a time of year where you get to focus more on basketball, which is fun, but there's always something football related to talk about. Obviously, we got out of the transfer portal window, but you have hires, you have players coming in. It's never quiet in Tuscaloosa when it comes to Crimson Tide football, but that's why we love it.
Absolutely. And we will start with football. Alabama, of course, on New Year's Day falls in the Rose Bowl to Indiana. What were some of the priorities you saw from Kalen DeBoer and this program immediately after that game was complete?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a laundry list. Like the to-do list is pretty long. You have to focus on retaining your roster in this day and age of college football. I think they did a solid job at that. Obviously, you have to go out and it's like the day they get back from Pasadena, the transfer portal window's open for 15 days. That's kind of mass chaos for everyone, but especially a team playing on the other side of the country. Like you kind of have to go into scramble mode. I think Alabama did a nice job of addressing some of its needs, primarily on the offensive and defensive line. And then Kalen DeBoer had to replenish his coaching staff. You had a lot of guys leave the program for promotions elsewhere. We know that Nick Sheridan left for Michigan State to be the offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach last year. Jamarcus Shepard obviously was the head coach or got the head coaching job at Oregon State after coaching wide receivers. So there's some new additions on the coaching staff, and then analysts, personnel department. You're replenishing those, and we're kind of seeing that start to wrap up. Like Kalen DeBoer's staff for the 2026 season is starting to come into form, and it looks like we know almost everyone that'll be in Tuscaloosa for the upcoming season. But yeah, I would not like to be Kalen DeBoer and this staff the last month or so because they have been busy, whether it's adding coaches, adding players. They've kind of been going nonstop. And then you also got high school recruiting as well. That never stops also. You had that period where they were out on the road before the February dead period. They had a big junior day. It's tough to keep up with if we're being upfront and honest with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And two of the notable moves on the offensive side of the ball in terms of the coaching staff, Adrian Clem takes over as the offensive line coach, and then Richard Owens just announced as the tight ends coach. What could be different for those groups with these new coaches in place?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Kalen DeBoer and really this offensive staff know that they need to run the ball better. I think Alabama fans they love hearing that they're aware of the shortcomings of this past season and they need to improve in that department. And I think bringing in a guy like Adrian Clem, he has a pretty impressive resume. He's coached in the NFL and at the collegiate level. He's coached at Oregon. He knows Courtney Morgan, Alabama's general manager. So whenever you're kind of working together in an offseason to bring in an offensive line class, I think that relationship is important. It's important on the recruiting trail as well. So he's a guy that he was at USC last as a defensive analyst, funnily enough, but he's a guy that has a lot of experience coaching offensive linemen. So that one's one I think a lot of eyeballs will be on this offseason and for the start of the 2026 season. And then Richard Owens, he's a guy that actually coached Louisville's offensive line this past year. So again, it kind of goes hand in hand of getting better up front. I think the tight ends did a solid job in the run game, but they can always get better. And he's a guy, he has a ton of tight end experience. Don't get me wrong. I know he was an offensive line coach at Louisville, but he's coached tight ends, I believe, at UAB, South Alabama. Louisville, so he knows the state. He's a guy that played at Louisville, coming over from his alma mater, I think is a big deal. He's a guy that's played the position at the collegiate and NFL level. So again, I think the point of emphasis, though, the trending area for those hires is that those guys come in and I think they're well known for getting the run game going. I think that's music to Alabama fans' ears.
You mentioned how busy it was as soon as the Rose Bowl's over, that kind of period of news we saw with the transfer portal opening for fans that weren't able to follow the day in, day out coverage you guys had. If you could, just looking at the players Alabama is getting in the transfer portal, is there a position or a couple of standout players that fans should really be excited about?
I mean, they really hit the offensive and defensive lines hard, and the defensive line in particular. We heard from Kalen DeBoer down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, and he mentioned captain caliber players, like guys that can lead on that side of the ball, and that's big because you think about it. You lose Tim Keenan, you lose Deontay Lawson. Those are your two captains on defense. You lose both on offense too, but defensively, you bring in some veteran players that I think can kind of step in and replace Keenan, Lawson. You got to replace LT Overton. There's a lot of holes on the defensive front that need to be filled. And you bring in a guy like Caleb Woodson, a linebacker from Virginia Tech. He's a guy that was up for captaincy at Virginia Tech as well. Some off the field things led to that not happening, but he's a guy that looking for a fresh start, I believe, is a senior. So a veteran presence there. You got Terrence Green coming over from Oregon, who's just a ginormous human being that can be kind of that run stuffer up front. He's a guy that could lead this group. Devin Tompkins from USC, another veteran. I think he's a senior or redshirt senior that can play that bandit position that LT Overton filled. And then Desmond Umazulu. I think I've gotten the pronunciation nailed on that one. Thank you, South Carolina pronunciation guide, for that. But Umazulu is a guy that he played behind guys like Kennard and Dillard Stewart at South Carolina, some of the premier pass rushers in the SEC, quite frankly, but played a ton. And he's a guy that can come in and play Wolf, maybe some bandit and some pass rushing situations as well. But those four, like when I look at the defensive class, really stand out to me because the offensive line, I think there's just a ton of question marks because they have to replace all, not all starters, but four of the five starters. But I think on defense, they really hit on some guys that have been productive and can continue to be productive with more opportunities at a place like Alabama.
As we get ready for spring football as well, is just the personality of this team in terms of the players and some of the people, the media, the fans know, just going to be completely different from what we've seen, especially now that there are very few holdovers that still played for Coach Saban. They're now still around and will have a role on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I try to have some fun like on President's Day and do like a who's going to be the next captain story. And that was hard. That might have been the hardest year, or this might have been the hardest year I've had in just trying to figure out who are going to be the voices on this team. Not just when we talk to them, like on your podcast or when we have interviews in the indoor facility or something like that, but like just inside the building. I think Bray Hubbard obviously is the big one. I think if Alabama had five captains in 2025, he would have easily been the fifth. Him coming back is a huge deal. You're getting guys like Bray and Keon Sabb and Yanze Pierre, Zabian Brown, Dijon Lee. You're getting some quality players that played a lot of minutes back on defense. Offensively, it's even slimmer because you're going to have a new quarterback. You're going to have four new starters on the offensive line, a new top running back, a new top tight end. The only receiver you bring back as the starter is Ryan Williams. So it is tough. Like I was talking with somebody the other day about who are they going to take the SEC media days this summer. Like it feels like Bray, Ryan Williams, and then you're like, maybe throw a dart at a dartboard. I don't know. So it's going to be a new look team. I think a lot of these guys they brought in, I think it's like 35 plus from the transfer portal and from the high school ranks. So they've got a lot of new faces in this program. It's actually more than that. My math's probably off on that. It's a little early in the morning for me, Roger. But they've got a lot of new faces, and they're going to call on those new guys to contribute, whether it is transfers or freshmen. So yeah, it's gonna be a new look team, and I think that's why there's a lot of uncertainty in the offseason. Just you see people making way too early predictions and emphasis on the way too early. I think a lot of people are counting this Alabama team out before we even know really what they have because they have so much new coming in.
They certainly do. And kind of with that, so much focus and attention will be on the quarterback position. Austin Mack, Keelan Russell back for this spring. Do you imagine it's going to be at a fever pitch once again? Kind of like we saw last year before the season began, before Ty was named the starter early in camp. I mean, there's going to be so much focus and attention on that quarterback battle.
Yeah, there is, and rightfully so. And look, we saw Austin Mack a little bit more this past season. I thought he did a nice job actually stepping in the Rose Bowl when Ty cracked his rib. But that one's going to be fascinating to see play out. And I think last year we had a little bit better sense of where things were going to go because I think the Monday after the 8A practice, Ryan Grubb kind of came out and said if we had a game tomorrow, Ty Simpson would be the starter. I would kind of be surprised if he says anything like that this year, just because it is kind of wide open between those two. And look, they don't have the spring transfer portal window anymore. These guys are locked in for the 2026 season, and I think it could go the distance. I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see both kind of play early. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me. We've seen it in the past as well. So I think they have two really, really good quarterbacks. I think when you look at the quarterback competition, I think it's a healthy one, and I think it's a good one. And I think it says a lot about Alabama in the way that they've been able to kind of recruit, that they have two high caliber players. And I know one came from Washington via the transfer portal, but it's a guy that this coaching staff saw in high school and have developed. But they didn't have to go out and spend mega millions on a quarterback this offseason. They have their guys and they're going to duke it out. And spring practice is going to be big. Summer workouts are going to be big. And I think fall camp's going to be big for both Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. And so I'm excited to watch it play out. I know everybody else is, but I think right now it's way too early to call who's going to win this one. And like I said, I think it could kind of go the distance.
Certainly could see that. Well, switching gears to basketball, Alabama, of course, in the midst of an interesting campaign, had Charles Bediako back for 5 games. You've been able to brush off, I'm sure, some of your comm law knowledge, getting to see all the courtrooms going on around the Bediako case. Just what do you think the impact was of Charles coming back for those 5 games, and where does Alabama go from here without him?
Yeah, I mean, like, I know everybody has an opinion on this, and some have been absolutely wild. But they went 3-2 in those games. Charles Bediako didn't have a ginormous impact on any of those wins. In fact, like the Tennessee game, the the fact that Alabama was without Holloway and Amari Allen was much bigger than Charles Bediako being on the court at all. Alabama lost that game because of who it did not have, not who was there and creating all the headlines. So I think, look, he was in his 5-year window. I think Charles realized he made a mistake turning pro early and saw what else was happening around college basketball. Came back. I don't think it impacted the roster, the team at all. In fact, he's still with the team, and I think that's something people are surprised about because people gave Nate Oats some flack about talking about how if he were to be denied, he was going to keep him on scholarship. He was going to continue to pursue his degree, and that's the case. That's what's happening. He's actually still with the team and practicing, and I think that's a good thing for a guy like Aiden Sherrill and even Noah Williams to go against Charles Bediako in practice every day. So it didn't work out. I honestly think it's better for the sport that it didn't. I wish more of these trials would go the way that it went in Tuscaloosa County Court, but that might not be the case. We've seen some other high-profile quarterback cases not go that way, but I think Nate Oats swung for the fences. They ultimately missed, and they've proven they're a good basketball team without Charles Bediako. They've won 4 in a row, and they got a big one coming up. But I don't think it really did too much. Like I think it was good to see Charles back. It helped Aiden Sherrill, who's having to play more minutes without him. But ultimately, I don't think it really changes much for this team.
And you mentioned they've won 4 games in a row, including 2 without Charles Bediako. Now, as they continue trying to build up momentum towards March Madness, just what's going to be most important for this group? Who are going to be the key guys that could carry Alabama deep in the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, Aiden Sherrill, I think it starts there. Like, LeBaron Philon is Alabama's best player, but if you were to lose Aiden Sherrill, that would be devastating. Like, he is the most important player, I think, for this team. And they're figuring out ways to kind of utilize him the best because you don't want to play him a ton and just wear him out, but he needs to be on the floor because he's developed into a rim protector for Alabama. He's been able to score the ball well. He's been really good at the free throw line too. That's something that's probably not talked about enough is just the way that he's performed there. Obviously Philon, but I think a guy like Amari Allen is also important to this team because he can play 1 through 4 when you're having to go a little smaller because you don't have a Bediako out there. He can play the 4 and rebound the ball well. He's the team's leading rebounder. So that's kind of where my attention goes. You want to see this team get healthy. It's great to see Latrell Wrightsell really hit his stride here of late. He looks like the Latrell Wrightsell of old. He might look like the best version of Latrell Wrightsell, honestly, here of late. He's been shooting the hell of the ball. But yeah, this team, they got a big one coming up against Arkansas. Get past that, I don't think you have another ranked team on the schedule. So you have a favorable slate for the end of the season. Of course, you get Auburn at home. You got to go to Tennessee, but those teams aren't ranked. Um, they they can put themselves in a position to get a top four seed, but they got to take care of business, and they're going to need some big contributions from those guys that I just mentioned.
And then finally, as we wrap things up, as you visit with us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, you also got to be on our signature show, Hey Coach, and the Nick Saban Show many times as the media guest. It's still the cover image you have on Twitter, you smiling, looking at Coach Saban, who's also kind of cracking up. Just how much did you enjoy those interactions? Was it nerve-wracking going into your first one? Did it get easier as time went on through the years? But what was it like sitting on stage next to him with all of Tuscaloosa and Alabama kind of focused on you in that moment?
Yeah, that is a lot. The first one was nerve-wracking. It also doesn't help that so you're sitting to Coach Saban's left, and that left knee is nonstop shaking, and you're like, Coach, you need to calm down because now I'm not calm. I didn't say that. That's internally. But it's a lot of fun because you kind of see him in a different element. He kind of loosens up a little bit. Now, you can also tell when it hasn't been a good week of practice because he's not in a great mood, and you got to be kind of careful how you ask things. But he was always great in those situations. I do remember, I believe, like, I was probably just a last-ditch choice for Alabama. I think I did it the week of a Chattanooga game. And before Coach Saban comes on, Eli would talk about the game, and he was just throwing a bunch of Chattanooga questions at me. And I'm like, I want to be like, Eli, I don't know, man. I didn't deep dive into the mocks going into this game. But no, it was always a lot of fun. I think I got a couple funny questions from or answers from Coach Saban in those. And it is a shame those aren't a thing anymore, but I think it is cool that now with Coach DeBoer's radio show, they do highlight a player or two. I think that's something that doesn't get done enough. I know we as a local beat try to do that. We have the Media Good Guy Award too. So getting those players out there and getting their stories told is always nice. And I think that Chris does a solid job with that.
Absolutely. Well, always a part of the fun we've had over the years with you, Charlie, on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Just thank you for joining us today on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. All the best. Look forward to seeing you in Tuscaloosa a lot coming up over the next few weeks.
Appreciate it, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Fans, there's no better way to experience Alabama basketball than with our live basketball booth cams presented by NASCAR. Streaming live during all Alabama men's and women's basketball home games this season, you'll get a front row seat to all the great reactions from our radio crew as the big plays happen for the Crimson Tide. Make sure you follow us on all your favorite social media platforms at UA_CTSN, especially subscribe on YouTube. That way you won't miss a single basketball booth cam this season. Again, presented by NASCAR for all Alabama men's and women's basketball home games this year.
Go Holloway, a deep three, bottom. Mercy from 30 feet out, dead on. Holloway with 25, and Bama leads it by 14.
My name's Ada Sherrill, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
As I mentioned before, our booth cam was up and running all weekend long. Ethan Kerriman did a great job in giving you these live streams of softball, baseball, men's and women's basketball. And so for today, we typically give you some basketball booth cam highlights or just booth cam highlights in general, even going back to football. But for this edition, we wanted just a little bit of everything, taking a look at what a great weekend it was in Tuscaloosa for Alabama athletics. Here's booth cam highlights from the Crimson Tide Sports Network over a very busy weekend in Tuscaloosa.
1-0 to Wells, and that one is crushed. Deep left field, way back. Way gone. Brooke Wells with a two-run shot. Her third home run of the season. RBIs 11 and 12, and Alabama quickly grabs the lead back. It's 2-1.
The 1-1 is smacked out towards center field. That'll bring in at least one. It got all the way to the wall. Two runs have crossed. Here comes a third. Brooke Wells has cleared him with a 3 RBI double. And the third inning, man, 8-0 Alabama here in the home half.
0-1. Swing, lifted high, deep towards left field. The two outfielders look, and it's gone. Luke Vaughn is gone.
And that's what the fans needed. That's what we wanted in here. We get some excitement in here. That ball was pummeled by Luke Vaughn, who had struck out every time. Don't you think that feels good to get off the schneid and to put the Tide up 2-0?
BP, no Roger Hoover. I get to talk to you at home, which is a delight. What are you seeing so far?
I couldn't tell if that was a shot at Roger or at you or the world in general.
I'm just taking it as a compliment that he.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, we the three of us have spent way too many Valentine's days together, by the way.
I was thinking about that.
I
We
didn't
have
know if
done
that
this
was
a
related. I
lot.
appreciate the sweet comments.
6 bank first threes on 9 attempts, and Bama gets the steal. Reitzel threads the needle to Mathia for the flush. Oh, mercy, what a pass from Latrell. And Jalil with the finish, and the Tide leads by 5.
Defense leading to offense. Incredible pass, catch, and finish.
Here comes Allen looking into the corner. Holloway for 3.
Set up by Amari Allen. Beautiful play. Got the ball inside. Aiden Holloway in rhythm.
Now Houston will get it to Sherrill, over to Philon for 3 again, hits it again, and Bama is red, smoking hot. Tide does now. Gamecocks try to answer. They miss. Rebound tipped, and the little man gets the rebound. Holloway now weaving through traffic, stopping, backing it out, and the Tide will run a little clock here with 1:10 to go. Reitzel on the drive all the way to the rim. Nobody picked him up, and he laid it in for 2, and I think the Gamecocks have waved the white flag. Alabama, 3 seconds, 2 and 1, getting the victory over South Carolina by a final of 89-75.
2-1 to Vandegrift. Well hit to deep left center field. That one's way back. Way gone! Audrey Vandegrift says, get out the mustard and the rye bread, Grandma. This one's over. Bama wins at 8-0 with the grand slam.
Basketball with Oklahoma. Pass at the top of the key, nearly stolen away by Scott. Now it is taken away by Ace. She drives down the right side, throws it up, puts it home. 2-point game, 52-50. Alabama keeps fighting back. Top of the key, Chavez with a high arching 3, no good. Carly Weathers with the rebound. Here comes Alabama with a chance to take the lead. Timmons, left side to Weathers, top of the key. Head fake by her. Weathers downhill on the left side to the rim, puts it up, puts it in. Let's start over. Alabama, Oklahoma tied at 52. The Crimson Tide on an 8-0 run. Left wing to Chavez, now top of the key, driving Williams, left side layup too strong. Rebound by Timmons in transition. Here comes Alabama. Timmons kicks it out to Austin, right side 3 on the way. Perfect! Ace Austin gives Alabama the lead, 57-54.
Where we at, Braxton? Talent, pick up, baby. Here we go. Like that, one of those. Oh, that. Oh, selfie? Hell yeah!
We had the live stream up and running last night as well for Head Coach and the Nate Oats Show presented by Alpha Insurance from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Really fun edition of the show. Christy Curry, Ace Austin from women's basketball led it off, followed by George Husak of Alabama men's tennis. And then Chris Stewart was joined by Nate Oats to round out the show, talking about what's ahead for the Crimson Tide. A busy week against Arkansas and LSU, plus a look back to the win against South Carolina. Here's our Head Coach replay. Chris Stewart and Nate Oats from Baumhauer's last night.
Bama had a bunch of those bank first threes in their last game, 14 of 34 in the victory over South Carolina, as we welcome in the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Coach Nate Oats with us. Coach, always good to see you. Congratulations, the team rolling along. I know that, look, there's always room for improvement, but right now wins are tough to come by in this league, and you've been able to get them 4 straight, I think, now, and putting yourself in a good spot coming into this back half of conference play.
Yeah, no, we were on a little run. Obviously, Arkansas is going to be a little bit more talented than these last 4 teams we played. But like you said, it's good to get wins. We're putting ourselves back in a decent spot. You know, we've got 6 games left. Is that correct? I think so. 6 games left. I think we're 8-4 with 6 left. So, you know, we put ourselves in a decent spot. Still got some makeup to do, but you know, I like the way we played. I like the way we stuck with it at Ole Miss. I didn't think we were playing bad. We just were missing good shots.
Right.
And then they started going down. You know, go from scoring 10 points in the first 10 minutes of the game to scoring 89 in the game. Something went right there after the tough start. And then, you know, I thought last game against South Carolina, you know, we could have definitely played better. for sure, but I thought, we did a lot of good things. I mean, you kind of look at some of the stuff that did go right. We had 20 assists. I thought the turnovers early weren't great. We still had too many for the game for sure, but we did a good job kind of settling down, not turning it over once we got into the game. So, I thought we did a decent job on Michi Johnson in the first half, and then kind of built the lead, and then we did not do a good job on him in the second half. So we're going to have to play 40 minutes of really good basketball, 40 minutes of good defense, because they've got some really good guards. They've got athletes, athletic in the front court, back court, both, and it's going to be a tough test for us.
Coach, it often happens when a player has the talent level that LeBaron Philon Jr. has. It's almost sometimes, we did this with Mark Sears. You kind of nitpicking about a game, and then you look and he still had 20 again. He's always going to find a way to get to 20. LeBaron is a guy that has such a high ceiling that we can focus on the negative sometimes. He had 3 turnovers the other day, I think on 3 straight possessions, and yet he finishes with just 3 turnovers for the ball game. Huge at the line for you down the stretch, in addition to handling the ball when South Carolina is trying to create some problems. Big for you once again.
Yeah, agreed. It's a little frustrating watching him turn it over those 3 times, but ends up with 6 assists, 3 turnovers, 19 points, and shoots 4 or 7 from 3. So ended up with a decent night. We got to get him healthy. He's a little gimpy right now, but not to make an excuse for him, but we got to get him to really start picking up his defense. He's more than capable. He was pretty elite defender as a freshman last year. He can rebound it better, guard better, take care of it better. But yeah, you get upset with him, and he still has 19 points at the end of the day. So it's nice to have talented guards like we have. Holloway's same way. He ends up with 20, and thought he could have played a lot better too, and still ends up with 20. So one guy that has been playing pretty well for a week is Reitzel. I think he averaged 20 on the week. Shot it pretty well. Up until last game, he was 24 for his last 48 threes, and he goes 3 of 7, so he's still barely under 50% here lately. He's been pretty good here lately.
He has. Coach, one thing about LeBaron, but also with all players, it seems, at that level, they have aspirations of playing in the NBA and everything that's required of them. They may have the skill, but the understanding of what you have to play through in order to be a pro, and also the things you have to do to get yourself ready night after night. Talk about the adjustment. I'm not talking about LeBaron exclusively in this, for all players, though, of the grind and what it's like. And while it's a grind in college, frankly, it's half of what it can be at the next level, right? Just in terms of games.
Yeah, they're kind of reaching their halfway point. They just had the All-Star break, and when you count the playoffs, it's about the halfway point there. And there's 6 weeks left in college basketball right now. It's 3 weeks of the regular season, then you get postseason. So it's not a whole 6 or 7 weeks, I guess it'd be. It's a lot different. They've got 82 games plus the playoffs plus your preseason games. We get 31 games plus the playoffs. You're not going to get over 40 games, so you could easily end up over 100 games there. So they a lot more wear and tear on your body, a lot shorter recovery time between games. Like, you just gotta up at that level. Some of those guys just play through whatever and keep playing. I think LeBaron's proven he's willing to play through plenty of injuries. He has not been 100% pretty much every game this year. And he still fights through it, plays hard, gets through it. I think he'll turn out to be a pretty good pro in that regard. And he's learning how to take care of his body, getting with Clark and do all that stuff too. So our guys get a pretty good lesson on how to take care of their bodies through Clark. Clark does a great job, and they're pretty good with it before they ever move on to the next level.
Coach, let's get one in from Pee Wee down in Grand Bay. Go ahead, Pee Wee.
Hey, Coach, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Pee Wee. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, Coach, you mentioned playing 40 solid minutes of defense. You know, those of us that are old like me remember Nolan Richardson in the 40 minutes from hell. I would love to be able to see our defense do that to our opponents. Is that the kind of defense that you are looking for us to have on that?
Well, going back to Nolan's days, they've kind of full court pressed the whole game. I don't think that's the answer right now for our current team with the injuries we've got and all that. I do think we need to pressure the ball harder, though, which sometimes that involves full court pressure. Sometimes it's just pressure within the half court, you know, within your where you deem kind of your pickup point's going to be. But, yeah, it would be nice if it looked a lot more like 40 minutes of hell without the 40 minutes of pressing and trapping. And I don't think with our lack of depth right now and with the level of guards that you play, I'm not sure that that's the right way for us right now. But the effort that they gave, yes, 100%. Like the pressure they put on the ball, like we've got to turn the ball over more. We know that. So there's some aspects of it that for sure we'd love to, take away from, steal from. But the actual pressing part of it, we're probably not going to institute that at this point of the year with where we're currently at.
Thanks for the call, Pee Wee. Coach, we had a chance to visit with London Jemison. Talk to us about the young man and just what allowed him to be one of the top prospects in the country coming out of Connecticut, but also what's allowed him to be a part of your starting lineup for the last couple of games.
Well, he gives you versatility. He's 6'8", 6'9", can shoot, handle the ball, rebound when he feels like it. We got 2 games since our last show. I go to the Ole Miss game. He had 1 rebound.
Sorry, London.
Yeah, he couldn't stay out of foul trouble very well. And then the next game, he kind of proved why he's in the lineup, and he had 8 rebounds. So we need him to stay a little closer to the 8 to 10, trying to push a double-double. But, he can go on a run. I think he had 7 straight points at the Auburn game. I can't remember which. Was that the Auburn game on the road? Yes. Yeah, it was big run there when he had 7 straight on his own. So, he's a really good rim finisher. Now, not so much last game, but for the most part, he finishes well at the rim. Can shoot it well. Can guard multiple positions. He's got some toughness about him. And he's in the gym working on his game all the time. I love gym rats. He's a gym rat. He's working on his shot. He's getting better. He went 2 for 2 at the free throw line. We struggled with the line a little bit, and he's in there working a lot at it. So he's got the right mindset to get better. He's got the right toughness. He's got the right, physical. I mean, he's got length and athleticism, sure. So he's got a lot of upside, and I like the way he's playing, and he's been good for us. So, when Taylor comes back, I think him and Taylor can both kind of play that 3-4. Together, give you some size. You can sometimes bump Amari up to the 2 and get real big kind of with those 3 guys at your 2, 3, and 4. And he kind of just gives us that versatility where we can kind of play all different ways. He's even playing some small ball 5 here lately, just with Taylor being out. So very versatile, very skilled, great athleticism and size, and some real toughness about him.
2 more big games this week, Coach. You're at LSU Saturday. We know they've had their struggles, but first things first, it's a really good Arkansas team, a game ahead of you in the league standings. Wednesday night, 6 o'clock at Coleman.
Huge game. Game ahead of us in the standings, like you said, talented. Twin would go a long ways. We got to play well. We got to play a lot better than we did Saturday. The ball's got to move. We got to take care of it on offense. Then defensively, we got to really lock in. I mean, they've got some very talented players that can score it and pass it. I mean, Acuff scoring it, gets assists. Malik Thomas, one of the better scorers in the country. So they're good. We're gonna have to really lock in on this one Wednesday.
Hey, I'm Ace Austin, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Hey, Coach always begins our week of programming here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network as we take a look now at what else is coming up here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, including later today. Here's our upcoming schedule. Yep, I got to leave the home studio and get to Samford University for Alabama baseball against the Samford Bulldogs. First pitch at 4. Our radio coverage will start at 3:45. Tomorrow, certainly busy as well with the baseball game at 4 o'clock against Alabama State, and then men's basketball against Arkansas with the tip-off at 6. Our radio coverage on Wednesday night for Alabama men's basketball will begin at 5 p.m. Don't forget, we will have the basketball booth cam presented by NASCAR for that game, plus our game on Thursday when Alabama takes on the South Carolina Gamecocks. 7:15 will be the airtime for women's basketball against South Carolina. Then it's just going to be busy from here on out on the weekends for all of us on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Softball with 2 games at Florida State, starting early in the morning at 9 a.m. against Elon, and later that afternoon against the Seminoles at 4:30. Baseball will start its series at 4 o'clock against Rhode Island, and also we'll have a booth cam streaming live as well coming up this weekend here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Saturday, the softball team busy as well against Florida State and Elon. Baseball at 2 o'clock against Rhode Island, and then men's basketball will be on the road at LSU in Baton Rouge. Tip-off at 5 and our airtime at 4. And then on Sunday, women's basketball taking on the Florida Gators at 11 a.m. in Gainesville. Softball wrapping up play in Tallahassee against Dartmouth, and the baseball team closing out its series at 1 o'clock against Rhode Island. And then Monday, we'll start it all again with Hey Coach. And then before you know it, time for Tuesday and Thursday editions of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR as well. It's going to wrap up a busy edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR on this Tuesday. Huge thank you to Charlie Potter at the beginning of the show. And then thanks as well to Ethan Carabin, our video producer, who does a fine job producing this show, but all the booth cams that we have for you on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, plus Hey Coach, all the live streams done by Ethan and done extremely well. Appreciate his hard work here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. This is going to be Roger Hoover saying so long. Again, I got to get to Samford for the baseball game coming up at 4 o'clock. But as we go, we want the final word of the night to belong to Nate Oats, the head coach of the men's basketball team at Alabama. Hey, Coach, his final word is always presented by McCurry, Van, and Carr Rental, as Nate says goodbye to Chris Stewart and all of us as we round out this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
You know, we're on a 4-game run. We've gotten good support, but Arkansas is going to be the most talented team we've seen since that Florida game when we didn't play well. So we're going to need great crowd Wednesday. It's a big-time game. We just need fans to continue to support our guys, get them to play hard on defense, get them to give effort. Let's make sure we're cheering the right plays, the winning plays, all the blue-collar plays, the offensive rebounds, the tough defensive stops, that type of stuff. Let's make sure. Obviously, the threes and dunks are great to cheer for as well, but let's cheer all the winning stuff that doesn't necessarily that the less educated fans may not cheer as much for. So let's cheer the effort, the blue-collar, the winning plays, and let's keep this thing rolling here.
And if you can suddenly fake a cough on Wednesday around 4 so you can start getting out of the office a little early.
Yeah, good point.
Tuscaloosa.
Just show up to work. Just show up an hour earlier. Show up at 7 instead of 8. Show up at 8 instead of 9.
There
and
we
you
go.
can get out. Just tell your boss you showed up an hour early, you're leaving an hour early. It usually works that way.
Tell them it's a family commitment. Bama family, we got a game at 6. We got to be there.
There you go.
Thank you, Coach. Nate Oats. Roll Tide to you as well.